I think that the issue of oil, it is troubling, and it worries the mind. And let me say that it worries the mind because it also goes to define the kind of people we are. Let me say that I feel very uncomfortable and I feel very angry at this moment, being a Nigerian. And I also think that as a Nigerian and Nigerian state, we should begin to reverse the trend. Dangote, for instance, I think that let me bring Dangote as a focal point for discussion. Dangote, for instance, has been able to put in investment into the oil sector. Don't forget that this Nigerian state, in the last 25 years or thereabout, had spent approximately 13 trillion for turnaround maintenance of refineries. That never worked. These same refineries have spent huge amount of money in the name of maintaining it and even paying workers who are not producing anything. However, we see a man who decides to say, look, let me put in my money and see what we can do. Now, to the greatest surprise of many, we have seen move by the state cabal and by people who feel, and both international and both local and international, to frustrate him. Now, the question therefore becomes, in a country that goes outside the world to look for foreign investors, and you have somebody who is putting in his effort to do this. This is exactly the same thing China does. China will make sure that its own local investors are encouraged. People like Dangote should be encouraged. I also understand that there are sentiments out there that Dangote himself is enjoying monopoly. But we fail to understand that Nigerian state has given out licenses, not less than 19 licenses to operate. These guys collected this license and some of them refused to do anything. So I think that what is happening in Dangote refinery clearly shows that even if you bring brand new refinery and give to NNPC, they are not interested in refining crude. And this also interrogates the question, are the refineries really, really bad? Or group of persons just decided to make these things not to work? In 2013, I did special reports in crude refining in Niger Delta. I saw a lot of local knowledge. I saw a lot of local knowledge that if you integrate them and refine this knowledge, this country will be able to refine crude. We have modular refineries. Now the question therefore becomes, how come a country who said that it has removed subsidy because he wants to liberalize the sector, how come a country who preaches classical liberalism? I know, what do they call it now? Free market economy, is coming to frustrate people. How can you say you want to open up the sector and you are not interested in encouraging people who want to come and join the sector to do business in the sector? I think that the Nigerian state must begin to take drastic measure in making serious political decision on issue of governance, because Bishop, leadership is not about power. Leadership is about empowerment. So the Nigerian state needs to understand that the issue of insecurity we have today, the issue of poor governance we have today, the issue of Nigeria not being able to refine locally is not magic. It's about political will that some group of persons just look at states as an opportunity for primitive capitalist accumulation. And we must know that we must try to understand that leadership, politics must not begin to serve as a superstructure where people come to take money. Because if you want to make money in this country and you cannot explain how you make money, join politics. So I think that the Nigerian state need to understand. Now again, how are people outside the world looking at us? A country that has been battling for petrol to refine crude for the past 25 years, you are seeing somebody who wants to do it. Let me say, Dangote said something that even when he wanted to invest in this country, some of his friends told him not to, because that the frustration will be too much. Now they are laughing at him. Bishop, I know a good number of 2 or 3 or 4 persons, some my personal friends, who couldn't do business in this country because of frustration. So when they come to tell you the ease of doing business in this country, no, there's no ease of doing business in this country. True. Vested interest has kept Nigeria where it is. And that vested interest has to be addressed so that the Nigerian state will be removed or will be freed from the grip of a greedy people. Do you understand me? Sir. So Nigeria shouldn't be this way. And let me say, I have had conversations or people say Nigeria is a blessed country. Of course, Nigeria is a blessed country. But let me tell you, you become a blessed country when you have strategic and purposeful leadership. Dubai is what Dubai is today because the kind of leadership they have. And leadership, a country, a society, a family cannot go beyond the type of leadership it has. So let me tell you, we must know that leadership is very, very important. Let me tell you, Bishop, the reason I don't believe in some people, if a blind man is leading you, all of you must end up in dungeon. In this Jordan FM, there is no idea you bring here that will transform this place. And if the leadership does not believe in you, so leadership is a serious business. It's a serious thing that Nigeria needs to be taken serious.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liberty. Mr. Audi Liberty Oseni is the coordinator of Media Advocacy West Africa Foundation, director of Communications Center for Development Communications. Okay, sir, thank you so much for taking the time. He's one of our regular listeners. And the good thing is that it's not long he started listening to the program. I don't think it's even up to a month. And then he has taken out his time to join us on the program this morning to discuss the oil sector. Sir, from what this thing that you have seen, I was just ruminating about everything that you have said. And I'm tempted to ask, is the oil sector of Nigeria, is it politicized?
Well, the center of Nigerian politics is in the oil sector. You should understand that.
Yes, sir.
So politics itself, according to David Easton, is authoritative distribution of resources. So you need authoritative power given to you from the process of election and electioneering through the process of ballots to get access to public resources. And what are the major public resources in this country is the oil sector. And that is why I am one of those. You know, Bishop, I always tell people it is difficult for the Nigerian state to really, really, really liberalize liberalize the oil sector because that is the cash cow of the state economy. That is the major determinant of the state of economy. As we speak today, just as this morning, I read a report that the subsidy removal they are talking about is taking 700 billion every month under the current government. So what that tells you is that the Nigerian politics actually revolves around the oil and gas. And that is why since Jonathan, Buhari didn't have Minister of Petroleum.
He did, yes. After
he had Minister of Petroleum for state, yes. Tinubu is maintaining the same
Yes,
thing.
same thing. Yes.
So the politics, Nigerian politics, is all about. In short, let me say that the oil and gas is also a major determinant of the Nigerian politics. That is where the money is. Let me ask you again: have you ever read? Have you ever seen a country that has this kind of, uh, oil theft we have in this country? This is a country where they will tell you that a full load of sheep disappeared. You cannot have this kind of oil theft. You don't have refinery. And not what you think about, you sit about and you think that it's going to be okay. And let me tell you, and this is why I tell people the Nigerian state cannot survive subsidy removal, because even the Nigeria energy sector strictly relies on the petrol.
Yeah, true.
And that is why, since the removal of subsidy, Nigerian economy has been struggling, because the centerpiece, the fulcrum of Nigerian economy purely on the oil and gas. And the day Nigeria gets its oil and gas right, nothing. Nigerian state. I remember in 1996, I was in SS1 in 1996. I remember clearly. I had this machine called RS80, R80. I've forgotten the name now, but small this machine. I used to buy half gallon of petrol then at the price of 35 naira. I remember clearly. Do you understand me? So what are we talking about? If today I want to go to my village with my car, I have to budget about 96,000 naira for petrol. So how do you expect a country that runs that way to move? So I think we should get serious. Then back to your question, is the politics of this country on oil and gas? I can tell you, yes, it is for oil and gas, because oil and gas actually brings the money we use it brings the major resources in this country. And the Nigerian politics itself is not even about leadership, or is not even about the welfare of the people. It's about the accumulation of the resource, primitive accumulation of the resources. And that is why
same thing we're having in the mining sector.
Yes. And that is why you see that people can actually borrow money, go to bank to say, wait a minute, lend me money, let me go into politics, because it is not for service. And because they know it is not for service, it is an employment, is an investment. And because it's an investment, people can go anywhere to do it. And ask yourself, if Nigerian politics is for service, how come on the day of election people buy votes? How come on the day of election people do anything to get access to power? These are the questions we should have asked. So, but the Nigerian citizen, we need to begin to have conversation. We need to have dialogue that is participatory with the strategic stakeholders and even the members of the other members of the society, to have a conversation about the kind of democracy we want, about the kind of governance we want. Because unfortunately for you and I, Bishop, that the only way we can negotiate our development today is under the foundation of democracy. And unfortunately for us, Nigerian political parties are just vote gathering association. So we need to have a conversation. How do we make Nigeria to become a developmental state? Because a developmental state, it's a place where we should be having conversation about development. And we also need to appeal to our Nigerian intellectuals who push for naked capitalist movement, the liberalist market, the market fundamentalists, to begin to replace the liberal model propagation to development economics. Because when you replace it to development economics, then we begin to look at development itself. Because development itself is about people empowerment, about the people. Do you understand me?
Thank you, Mr. Aldi Liberty Oseni. He's the coordinator of Media Advocacy West Africa Foundation. He's also director of Communications, Center for Development Communication. Now you've said a lot, and then so many issues. I'm sure the listeners are also overwhelmed, just like as I am this morning. Sir, in view of all these things, past, present, and then for, let's say, forecasting to the future, we don't want to be an advocate of a bad thing, but we just have to face the reality that is on ground now. In view of the foregoing now, looking at the stability of the waters in the oil sector, I'm tempted to ask you again once again. Now, looking at all these indices and the factors, can the refineries really work? Because they promise us that by August, the GCU, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL, Mele Kyari, promised that the Port Harcourt refinery will begin to work in August. They have been, but the latest update on that is that August. So can it work? Will it work, or will the refineries work again? Because Nigerians really want to know.
You see, the thing is, my answer to that is to do a trend analysis of what is on the public domain. The Nigerian Minister of Petroleum, I think he was on channel some times ago, he couldn't even give the exact answer when the refineries will work. I think can Nigerian refineries work? Yes, it can. Another question is, are we ready to bolster the political will to make refineries work? Because let me say that the refineries are not working today, not because there's a serious technological advancement you need to make this work. What you just need to make it work is sincerity and political will. Do you understand?
Yes,
we have Saudi Aramco. These are people who have maintained refineries for a very long time. We have countries that do not produce oil, and these countries have refineries. I think Nigeria is one of the OPEC countries in the world that still export crude and import refined products. So within a refinery work, I think, yeah, it can work, but we need serious political will. We need serious sincerity. We need serious commitment. And let me say, the problem, there's a debate going on now. I'm even also part of the group. There's a debate going on within African scholars and within even Western world scholars that the problem in Africa is that we do not prioritize welfare of the people. And that is why, if you go to mining communities, what they just need to do is to get hold of the traditional ruler. As soon as you make the life of the traditional ruler comfortable, anything can happen. It doesn't care. And we take that kind of behavior to governance. So the Nigerian state needs to understand that the refineries needs to work for the benefit and for the welfare of the people. And let me say, you cannot fix Nigeria economy without having viable refinery, because the viable economic production in the oil and gas, because that is the major propeller and the major determinant of the Nigerian economy. What is your major? If oil is the major determinant of our economy, why don't you do the necessary investment into it? So if you are not ready to do that kind of investment into it, we should forget about being competitive state, because we are in a pure capitalist society that the best you should have to emerge. Bishop, isn't this amazing? Doesn't it worry you that in the 21st century, where people are talking about serious technological advancement, Nigerian state is still arguing about maintaining refineries. Nigerian states are still arguing about water, about road, about basic necessities of life. And like Maslow said in his theory, Maslow's theory of needs, a society that is still struggling in basic needs of life, food, clothing, and shelter, it's still a rudimentary society. So why are we still discussing as if we are a rudimentary society? And the intellectuals will come and tell you that the problem is colonization. Of course, it is part of the problem, but we are not the only country that was colonized. So we should begin to understand that nobody should come and do this. We do that for us. We need to do that ourselves. Okay, good, Bishop. You see, I am one of those who do not fancy subsidy removal. Now, the solution to subsidy removal or subsidy payment is local refining. Because we will talk about subsidy today because we import crude, we source forest to import crude.
Yes, sir. True.
If we support Dangote and the state itself musters political will to fix the refineries, we shouldn't be talking about subsidy. However, the Nigerian political elites, the Nigerian intellectuals are running away from the real conversation about subsidy, which is the corruption in the oil sector. Is it true that Nigerian state spends such amount of money in subsidy? We need to address the corruption in oil sector. It is the corruption that is where the real issue is. It's not about people sitting down to cook figure to say that we are spending this money. If you tell me that Nigerians use about 1 million liters of petrol every day, the question is, Bishop, do you buy petrol every day? No.
At all.
Now, the issue is, I am one of those. About 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I did a detailed study about subsidy. I am one of those who believes Nigerian state cannot survive without subsidy. You can't do it. There is no country that survives energy security. Subsidy is Nigeria energy security. And they will tell you the IMF is telling them to do that. In US, in UK, we have energy cap. In Japan, there's energy cap. These guys are even paying money for social safety net.
Yes, sir.
And the conversation is that state has no business. Is a faulty intellectual conversation. People shouldn't be saying that. Stop telling people that state cannot do business. In 2007, during the time of economic meltdown, why was American government giving money to support private sector? Do you understand? State is the major player in business. As a matter of fact, the Nigerian Constitution gives the state the responsibility to manage public resources for public goods. The idea of governance is even to manage resources. So don't come and be telling people that government cannot do anything. Government cannot do business.
Yes, sir.
So the reason the Nigerian state, let me tell you,
Yes, sir.
Kenya removed subsidy. When the economy wanted to collapse, they brought it back. Chile is one of the countries that, because IMF made it to remove subsidy, when they survived the economy, they all practically won IMF not even to come to their place again. So what am I saying? The amount of money the Nigerian state has lost in subsidy removal is more than the money we have saved. So how can you remove the propeller, destroy your economy because you want to make people to make you look good before eye of the people? And let me say, after the colonization, we embrace neocolonialism.
Yes, sir.
How come IMF can't go to Japan? How come IMF not telling what's the name of this guy's name? China,
Yes,
what
sir.
to do? How come the African states are being subjected
Yes, sir.
to IMF? And who tells you? You see, economics is different from economy. So economy is a practical application of common sense. There is no country that can survive without subsidy. As I speak to you,
Yes, sir.
if Tinubu regime decides today to say that it's going to remove subsidy completely, maybe we could buy a liter of petrol for 1,500, and
True.
that can bring the end of this country.
True.
From the day Tinubu government announced total removal of subsidy, Nigerian state has never been the same. And what is the solution to this subsidy? The solution to this subsidy is that Dangote is there. Find a way to support him.
Yeah.
I don't know the conversation they are having that there is scarcity of crude. If there is scarcity of crude, find a way, increase the productive capacity to feed Dangote. And when that happens, we are not going to be talking about subsidy. But because people are making huge amount of money
from that.
That is why we are where we are today. Don't forget, when they did subsidy probe under Jonathan administration, we saw how people were making money, and they never imported 1 naira into a drop into this country.
True.
Bishop, no country, and I stand to be corrected. No country will survive the kind of corruption we see in this country. It is not going to help anybody. Bishop, if I give you 1 billion naira today and you decide that you're not going to invest that money, you'll be spending 1,000 naira every 100,000 naira every day. You spend that money for 26 years. Therefore means that if you have 2 billion, you're practically going to spend the money almost like 70 years. How many years do you need to live in this? The amount of outrageous thing we do in this country that I look that is satanic is not ordinary. The solution to Nigeria problem is political will. When you muster political will to take strong decision about the welfare or the betterment of the country, nobody stands before you. In short, the only thing that stands before you and the state is God. Nobody crushes state power. Forget about assembling your friends. No. The state must supersede every other interest. So, for me, really, the issue is our leadership recruitment process should be taken serious. And our citizens' engagement with our leaders must increase. Because I'm not seeing conversation going on in Nigeria. And that's why, Bishop, permit me to say this. Nigeria is not going to be better in the next 50 years. You know why?
Why?
If you want to see countries that will be better, study the reaction of the youth, study the reaction of young people. Our leaders are not afraid of us. They are aware that nothing against the citizens. If they are afraid of the citizens, they won't do some certain things. So we need to engage.